By the end of this video, you'll understand how to create your own AI product backlog coach using Copilot, which is perfect for taking all those messy requirements, conversations, and ideas and structuring them into a format of a backlog that can actually help deliver amazing products. But at that point, the challenge isn't just about writing user stories. It's working out how you can structure this into a backlog that makes sense and that can scale with the product as the product grows itself. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you could use Copilot to create an agent that works like a sparring partner for you as your product owner coach. It's there to help challenge your assumptions, uncover where there are gaps, and then also make sure that you can structure everything into epics, features, user stories in a way that everyone can move forward with. So with that, let's jump into Copilot and see how to do it. I am on Microsoft Copilot. I have a Microsoft Premium license, or sometimes known as Microsoft 365 Copilot. And that means that I have the ability to create agents. So let's go and make the agent that I want to create today. First, I'm going to go across here to New Agent. At this point, we see a Let's Get Started screen, and it sees what I want to create. Now, in preparation for this, I have created a pretty extensive prompt that I'm going to include here. I'm just going to copy and paste this into the system. Now, I won't read through the whole thing here. I will put the prompt in the description below, but you'll see that I've given it some guidance. You are a product backlog coach. You're a combination of a senior business analyst, a product manager, a product owner, and an agile coach. And your role is to help users transform unclear, incomplete, or unstructured product information into high quality, scalable product backlog. There is a lot more on here, but you'll see that I've given it some core responsibilities. I've described its working approach. I've shown it what kind of analysis that I want it to do. I've then given it some details around what kind of details or discovery and clarification it should be asking for. And then a outline of the backlog structure that I want it to create at the end. There's also a little guidance on how I structure my backlogs. So what I mean by an epic or a feature or a user story. If you want to know more about that, I'll also link to a video that I've created on how to create the best Jira backlog. That's just above here. I've then also given it some guidance on how to interpret different requirements. So I don't want it necessarily just to gather these and complete everything and make assumptions all over the place. So I've given it some instructions on where to ask me questions back and to help take what is an input and then ask me for clarifications. But where there is complete unknowns, to identify what those are so that at least they're captured in the ticket. And the final piece in here is around the backlog quality review. So when it's producing the backlog, I want it to make sure it's not creating duplicates, for instance, and that it's comfortable that each item is a small enough item to work through as a user story or feature in an actual sprint. So with that, I'm now going to press the enter button and send that to the system. After a few seconds, what it's done is it's taken my input prompt, which is pretty detailed in this case, and it's created a starting point of what it sees as the product backlog coach on the right. So I can now review what's on here on the right and see if it's accurate. At the top, it's got the name, a product backlog coach, which I think is pretty reasonable, and a bit of a description about what it's there to do. It also has an icon here, which you can go and edit. So I'm going to click on that for a second. I can also then generate a icon for myself based on what I prefer to do. Today, this icon's not really showing me much, so I'm going to make something that's a bit more custom for me. I'm going to just try to put a prompt that just says a backlog of features, and let's see what that comes up with. So I've just typed that in and I'll press enter. You then have to wait about a minute or so, but then it generates something that's pretty impressive and is kind of in keeping with the style of these agent icons in general. I like this one. I can see that it looks like a backlog of some kind and it works for me, at least for now. I can always update it later. So I'm going to click apply. With that, you can then see that the icon has been updated, and I'll go on and review some of the other information that's on here. You can see that you've got quite a detailed instruction here, which has taken my initial instruction and then just reframed it into here. It is probably going to be pretty similar in some of the general structure, but you can see it's changed some of the content just to make it nice and clean for it to interpret. Now, what's noticeable immediately is this instruction is much shorter than what I gave it originally. So I'm hoping it works pretty effectively, but we can always iterate this as we go. Below that, we've then got knowledge, and we can link directly to a particular SharePoint site or other Microsoft system. I'm not going to do this for this one in particular, but what this allows us to do is it also can control whether we just work with specific sources or if we go to more open website content. I'm going to keep it pretty restricted just so I can keep it controlled for now. So I'll keep this on and the other two off. It's also got the option to add some capabilities like creating documents and also created imagery. I actually potentially want this to create documents sometimes, like an export format to upload into Jira. So I'm actually going to select to keep this one on, but I don't think it needs to create imagery, so I'm going to keep that one off. And then finally, it's created some suggested prompts, at least a starting point. So analyze product info, identify gaps, etc., etc. I'm just going to leave these as is for now. We can then, from the same pane where we're then looking at how to configure the agent, we can also preview it. If I click on this, this will give me an idea of what this will look like as the agent itself. You see the same icon, description, and then some of these suggested prompts. But I can also type a message and try it out while we're in editor mode. I think the easiest way to really test this out is to take a sample product requirements document. So I'm going to go and add something that I've just created as an example. Here is my short example version of a product requirements document. It's for an online e-commerce platform. I've kept it pretty general, but it's the sort of structure you might get from a PRD like this. So it's got some business goals and context, some success measures. It's got some details around the types of users, what the product needs to do, what customers can do, etc. So we might see some things that we'd expect to see of a e-commerce website off the back of it. I just want to use this as an example to see what happens. With that, it's actually taken a bit of initial analysis. So it's described some of the business goals, who the primary users are. It's identified what some potential epic candidates might be. And then it's also talked about some of the key dependencies and gaps that it has. So let's maybe try and have a more of a conversation with it. To help me with that, it's actually asked me an initial discovery question. Should customers be able to purchase as guests, or is creating an account mandatory before checkout? So this is where I've included in the prompt the ability to ask me questions one by one so that I can try and answer what I know to help improve the quality of the output. For this example, I'm going to say that they should always create an account and log in. With that information, it's actually then talked about what changes that makes to the scope, some things that it's included, and then things that it's excluded, like guest checkout. And it's got some new assumptions that it's made, and it's just been clear about what those assumptions are. And it's shown me where there is an example story that it would add. So as a customer, I want to create an account so that I can purchase products and track my orders with some sample acceptance criteria. It then goes on to ask me the next question, which I could answer, and we can sort of see how this is going to behave as you evolve the actual quality, which means that it's coaching me and we're kind of having a sparring activity of improving the backlog together. I'm actually going to now just ask it to skip my remaining questions and generate a backlog, just so we can see what it does at that point. We'd imagine in reality, we'd go for a number of these questions, get it as good as possible before this, but I just want to test out how it actually functions. So I'll type that in and then press enter. This actually took a few minutes to complete, but what you can see is it's actually given me a full extensive summary of what it's understood. And then it's tried to break down the different epics and the user stories that sit within them. So for instance, we've got customer account management, we've got a story about registering, one around login, one about resetting passwords. And you can see there is a user story outline and some high level acceptance criteria too. And it also breaks down different feature areas. So there's a customer profile, for instance. And overall, I think this is looking pretty good from my point of view. At the bottom, it's then got a Jira import format that's quite condensed, which is a helpful overview of all of the epics and stories that are expected to be included. And it's got a view on what level of readiness actually exists here. I'm going to try one more thing, which is to see if it can export this as an Excel format for uploading into Jira. So I've typed that in, export the backlog in CSV for uploading to Jira. And within about 30 seconds or so, it's actually done it. It's exported it, and you can download the Jira backlog CSV here. And it's told me there's about 41 different rows of items that are going to be uploadable to Jira in the end. So overall, this looks amazing. I'm really impressed by what could be produced so quickly. And with that, I'm therefore going to decide to create this agent because it's not yet published. I'm going to do that by clicking the create button in the top right hand corner. And then it will start creating the agent ready for use in the future. And it confirms it by telling me that the agent was created successfully. It's private only for me at the moment, but I can start a chat with it and get going. And there you go. So there you have it. We have taken what could take ages to digest a product requirement document or some other information and turn it into a structure that's actually usable. But more than that, we've used Copilot as a way to create an agent that can work with us as a product owner on creating that content. I think this is really incredible because the real challenge here isn't just about speeding up your process. It's about having an agent that can actually work with you, challenge you on your assumptions, identify where there are gaps, and help you work through creating a better outline of a backlog in the first place. This, of course, is just a starting point. You can continue to evolve your Copilot agent as you go. And I've just put this out there as a bit of an example of how to use it. I myself will keep continuing to refine this agent, and I'd love to hear how you're using Copilot to help you in your role as a product owner day to day too. If you have ideas, let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again on another product video soon.